everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point. And today we are here to get caught up on the, actually not to get caught up, I decided to take a different approach. I was going to do a video about the motions that were being filed to get R. Kelly released during this COVID pandemic, and I may still do that video. You guys know how I am, okay? And so I decided instead of going that route to go a little different route, because one, I wanted to talk about Judge Donnelly and just try to get a feel for who she is and what she's thinking. And I believe the conclusion I came to is that basically she is going to go along with whatever the prosecutors want her to do. You know, so she isn't really concerned about R. Kelly. She's not really concerned about his rights. She is probably a prosecutor's judge, somebody who will lean, as long as she's not breaking the rules per se, she's going to lean towards helping the prosecutors more so than doing what's right for the defendant. And it's really sad in this case because, as we know, R. Kelly has not been accused of any crime. And so for her to take the stance that she has thus far is really sad. And then also I've been trying to find out, because there's kind of some murmurings going around that she may possibly be stepping down for this case. On April 30th, he's going to have his arraignment on the latest superseding indictment that came down, I believe, the end of March. And so there's going to be a magistrate judge who's going to oversee those proceedings. And she said that they could basically resubmit a request, you know, for his release at that time. So I don't know if she's just going to be out temporarily or if she is being removed from the case or is stepping down from the case. That still remains to be seen. And then the other thing, when I was researching her, I found out that she was actually appointed by President Barack Obama. So judges are nonpartisan positions, like they're not supposed to go by whether they're Republican or Democrat, but we all know that usually that's how it kind of wavers out. A Democratic president or a Democratic governor will appoint Democrat or Republican, you know, they'll appoint judges along party lines. So I don't know if Barack Obama appointing her means that she is a Democrat or not, but I thought that was interesting, and I'll talk more about that later on in the video. And then the third thing I'm going to cover in this video is that there were some posts going around that her daughter worked on surviving R. Kelly, and so I kind of want to dispel that rumor that's going around based on the research that I've done on the person that they are saying is her daughter. It doesn't appear that that person really is her daughter, and I'll explain why I've come to the conclusion that that is probably not her daughter that they're going around saying is her daughter. So let's go ahead and start with her response to the defense's motion to have Mr. Kelly released for the coronavirus. And if you guys want me to, I'll do another video where I actually go through all the motions that have been filed so far to have him released, the back and forth, and how the defense attorneys are kind of strengthening their argument to have him released. But then you're going to see in what I'm going to read now that it really doesn't matter what they say. If the judge doesn't want to let him go, she's not going to let him go. So this was her response, and it came out on, I think it was the 21st. She came back and it was late in the day. So it says, on April 7, 2020, I denied the defendant's motion for a bail hearing and order granting his temporary release ECF number 53. The defendant renews his motion on this basis that 6 detainees at the MCC Chicago, including one on his floor, ECF number 59 and 60, have been diagnosed with COVID-19, ECF number 55. And these are codes, reference codes that they're using, so that if you need to go back and research, you know where to look for where she's basing her comments on. And it says that the government continues to oppose the defendant's release, EC number 56. The essence of the defendant's renewed motion is that conditions at the MCC have deteriorated and that this court can fashion terms of release that minimize the risk that he will flee or obstruct justice. As the former, it is undeniable that conditions at the MCC have worsened despite the best efforts of the BOP, and that's Bureau of Prisons, prison staff, and the inmates themselves to prevent an outbreak of COVID-19. While phases 5 and 6 of the BOP action plan, as well as the specific measures adopted at the MCC, may well control the spread of the disease, the risk of infection, and the stress and anxiety that COVID-19 will remain. At the same time, however, the defendant does not dispute this court's prior finding that he is not uniquely at risk for contracting severe illness from COVID-19. So I guess what she wants him to do is to say that he has asthma or he has some other medical condition that would make him more susceptible to the disease. But I think the fact that he has had like 2 surgeries, I think he had surgery on his toe and surgery on a hernia. He had a hernia removed. That in itself, anytime your body is cut on, that tends to weaken the immune system. And so I think that alone, that he's had 2 issues that had to be dealt with since he's been there, to me would suffice as enough concern that he may be more susceptible than the next person. So then it goes on and says, as the defendant recognizes the entire BOP population cannot be released because of COVID-19, ECF number 58 at 2. He claims, however, that he should be released while others should not, because the court can fashion conditions to defray the assertedly negligible risk that he might flee or obstruct justice. Certainly there are detainees at the MCC Chicago or elsewhere for whom a combination of conditions cannot be fashioned and will reasonably assure a court that they will appear and that they will not pose a danger to the community. Mr. Kelly is not one of those individuals. And that was something that, that was a quote from the motion that was filed by the defense. And she's saying here that she disagrees that he's not a risk. And she says, first, the risks associated with the defendant's release have not changed. The defendant continues to downplay the risk that he might flee, citing his attendance record in connection with the 2002 state criminal charge against him, ECF number 55 at 3. And then a quote, it says, this court should also strongly weigh the fact that years ago and prior to his acquittal on all then pending state charges, Mr. Kelly did exactly as he was ordered to do by that court while on bond, including but not limited to appearing for each and every court appearance. ECF number 58 at 2. And then another quote, it bears repeating that in Mr. Kelly's prior case, he never once failed to appear for any of his court appearances over a period of years. And then she goes, and that's the end of the quote. And she goes on to say, of course, the defendant is now charged with tampering with the witnesses in that case. In any event, his attendance record from a decades-old proceeding provides insufficient assurance that he would not attempt to flee if he was released. His circumstances and incentives are vastly different. He is now facing serious charges in multiple federal and state jurisdictions. Even aside from the risk of flight, the risk that defendant would try to obstruct justice or intimidate prospective witnesses has not dissipated and poses a danger to the community. See United States versus Zerko 592. You guys know they give you all these codes to these these cases that they are using to substantiate what they're saying. And then she goes on to say that a serious risk of obstruction of justice may qualify as such a danger to the community. And then she says, citation omitted. The defendant has been charged with obstructing justice in the Northern District of Illinois, specifically with coercing, threatening, and bribing potential witnesses. See United States versus Robert Sylvester Kelly, number 19, CR 567. And she goes on to read the case codes. The defendant maintains that any risk can be mitigated through a combination of measures imposed on his release, including restrictions on social media, internet, and telephone use. ECF number 58 at 3. Even under normal circumstances, these measures are imperfect. For example, they cannot stop a defendant from using an unauthorized telephone or digital device to contact potential witnesses or from inducing someone else to do so. Given the pandemic, where the judicial system's oversight capabilities are curtailed, these measures simply are not viable. They cannot ensure that a defendant with a history, incentive, and opportunity to interfere with potential witnesses will not do so. Accordingly, the defendant's motion for release is denied. And so I think what she's saying here, I mean, on her side of the scope, I can get it, okay? But on the other side, just because you have people that are coming forward, and remember, we haven't seen any evidence or proof of any of the stuff that they are alleging, and I would think that if they actually had proof other than hearsay, that they would be citing that in these motions where they say that they're going to deny, and this is why we're denying, because at this point, it's just a lot of back and forth between her and the attorneys. And so I'm thinking that, you know, as Steve Greenberg has pointed out, and Mike Leonard also pointed out on Court TV, is that he knew months in advance, you know, like Angelo and them tried to make it seem like, oh, they had the inside scoop on this grand jury convening. But according to the attorneys, the defense attorneys, they said that they already knew. And if you go back to some of my older videos where I talk about this, I even said, you know, when Angelo and them kept coming forward saying, oh, you know, the grand jury is meeting, and all these people are going in. And I kept saying, usually attorneys know when the grand jury is convening. And then the fact that y'all are out here all on social media talking about the grand jury's convening, I'm sure his attorneys, you know, have picked up on this chatter and would have gone back and found out. And so they're saying that they knew even before Surviving R. Kelly aired that that he was being investigated. Like once the stuff started about the filming and the release of Surviving R. Kelly, that the investigation was already underway. And he didn't try to flee because technically he could have left the country before Surviving R. Kelly ever aired. You know, as soon as he started hearing the murmurings that Surviving R. Kelly was in the making back in, and I think they started this in 2017. If he wanted to flee, he could have he could have left the country then. He doesn't have a passport, okay? He doesn't have a private jet. He doesn't even like to fly. So all these things that she's saying that he could flee, we have COVID going on, coronavirus going on. Countries have closed their borders. And like a friend of mine, well, actually it was a group of us. I have a friend who's a travel agent, and me and my best friend were going on a trip with her and about 17 other people that was scheduled for June, and we were going to Thailand, Dubai, and Egypt. And so that trip, you know, is going to be canceled because, of course, we can't go now. But about a month ago, Thailand closed their borders, and anybody that was in Thailand, in this place that we were going to, they had to leave. And if they didn't leave by a certain day, they were stuck there. They shut down the airports and everything. And countries, I remember reading a story where Russia had to get a airliner to go into Thailand to get their citizens out of Thailand and fly them back to Russia because these people had shut down. So, and Dubai, I think Dubai came out about a week ago and said that they're not letting international travelers come into their country. So it just makes absolutely no sense to think that he would be able to flee. And then you consider, even up until the day he was arrested in July of last year, he never reached out to anybody. He never tried to contact any of these people. He's never spoken out negatively about any of these people, even when they were going around during the, you know, on the tour circuit. They were getting on YouTube. They were getting on Twitter and doing all these things. He never spoke out. He never said a word about any of them. So for her to say, you know, he poses this great threat to the community because he has the ability to obstruct justice, it really, really makes no sense. And so, you know, even though I understand her argument because she's trying to appease the prosecutors, her argument really has no structure to stand on, because past behavior, right, is a indicator of future behavior. And so if he hasn't tried to obstruct justice in the past, then why would they think that he would do it now? And once again, we have no proof, because she's saying that it's based on something that was alleged to have happened in 2002. And so once again, we have to remember that he has a presumption of innocence. He has not gone to court. He has not been tried and convicted of anything. And so when I read stories where, you know, child molesters and child rapists and all these people have already been released and sent to home confinement. There was a story that came out yesterday from the same court from Brooklyn, where this man had asked to be sent to it was like a private jail or something. I didn't understand that. I guess it's like some highfalutin jail where they only have like so many people there, and they're non-violent offenders or something he was trying to go to. And instead of sending him to that jail, they decided to give him home confinement. Then there was another person that was released this week who is a former gang member who was just found guilty of securing weapons during to help supply gang members with weapons during this ongoing gang dispute that was going on. And he was found guilty, awaiting sentencing, but they let him go. So once you compare all these things that are happening, and then they keep denying him, they keep denying Bill Cosby, it does make you stop and think. So, you know, as I was pondering over all of that, I decided, okay, well, let me see what I can find out about this lady to try and understand her mode of thinking. And so I came across this article, and it says 5 facts you need to know about this woman, okay, Ann Donnelly. And so it says the federal judge who granted an emergency stay of part of President Donald Trump's immigration ban is a former prosecutor nominated to the bench by Barack Obama on the recommendation of Chuck Schumer. So it says Schumer, the high-profile Democratic senator, is a family friend of the judge, Ann Donnelly. According to the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, Schumer called for the executive order's reversal. And so it says the order for a stay came down on January 28th from Donnelly, a judge based in Brooklyn, according to the New York Times. Trump's executive order had created a 90-day ban on all immigration from a series of Muslim-majority countries: Iraq, Iran, Libya, Sudan, Somalia, and Yemen. Syrian immigration was banned indefinitely, and the order created a 120-day moratorium on all refugees into the United States. And Trump denied the immigration ban was a Muslim ban and said he thought it was working well. The New York Times reported he has said he feels the ban is necessary to review the vetting process and protect the United States from radical Islamic terrorists. However, the ban was affecting everyone from an Iraqi man who served the U.S. military as an interpreter to people with green cards as protests erupted at airports around the country where people from the impacted countries were detained. And so, Donnelly found that Trump's executive order would cause detainees irreparable injury. According to the Washington Times, the judge ruled that implementing Trump's order would cause irreparable injury to some people if they were sent back. The state blocks anyone with a valid visa from being held at airports from being deported. They do not have to be released from detention. And she says, the petitioners, and this was part of the ruling, she said the petitioners have a strong likelihood of success in establishing that the removal of the petitioner and others similarly situated violates their rights to due process and equal protection guaranteed by the United States Constitution. So I guess she applies that when it's convenient for her. And it says there is imminent danger that absent the stay of removal, there will be substantial and irreparable injury to refugees, visa holders, and other individuals from nations subject to the January 27, 2017 executive order. And then it goes on to talk more about her ruling. It says, according to The Hill, which is a publication, the judge's ruling, quote, affects those who have arrived in the U.S. from previously approved refugee applications or were in transit with valid visas, not those still overseas. And then 2, it says, Judge Donnelly is a former prosecutor who was born in Michigan. According to her judicial profile, Donnelly is a United States District Court judge for the Eastern District of New York. She was born in 1959 in Royal Oak, Michigan. Donnelly has a BA from the University of Michigan, a BA she got that in 1981, and a law degree from Ohio State University College of Law in 1984. The New York Court website says her father was vice president of A.O. Smith Corporation and chairman of their electric motor division. A graduate of Notre Dame University, he served as an adjunct professor at Wright State University for over 10 years. Before becoming a federal judge, she worked for the New York County District Attorney's Office from 1984 to 2009. She was an assistant district attorney from 1984 to 1997, senior trial counsel 1997 to 2005, and the bureau chief in the Family Violence Child Abuse Bureau 2005 to 2009. Okay, so that plays a significant part in her thinking. She served as a judge on the New York State Court of Claims from 2009 to 2015. And in the following positions, Supreme Court of Bronx County, New York, criminal term 2009 to 2013, special term for election matters 2013, Supreme Court of Kings County, New York, criminal terms 2013 to 2014, Supreme Court of New York County, New York, criminal term 2014 to 2015. And she's married to Michael Toth and has 2 daughters, and the daughters are Rebecca Toth and Margaret Toth. And so, number 3, it says Barack Obama nominated the judge to the federal bench on Schumer's advice. The New York Court's website says that Donnelly was nominated by Barack Obama on January 7, 2015 to a seat vacated by Sandra L. Towns. She was confirmed by the Senate on October 20th, 2015, and received commission on October 21st, 2015. The U.S. Senate confirmed her appointment on a 95-2 vote, according to the New York Law Journal. Donnelly was nominated to be a federal judge by President Barack Obama on the recommendation of Senator Charles Schumer. which was reported in the Brooklyn Eagle. The newspaper quoted the chief judge as saying, after giving Donnelly the oath of office, quote, "We are indebted to Senator Schumer for recommending Ann Donnelly and all of the other outstanding recent appointments. When Donnelly was confirmed, Schumer called her, quote, fair, open, and open-minded in the news release." 4. Schumer has described himself as a family friend of Donnelly. So she got the hookup, y'all. According to the Brooklyn Daily Edge, when Donnelly was sworn in to the federal bench, Schumer spoke at her oath of office, described himself as a family friend of the Donnellys, and noted that his daughter played basketball with one of Donnelly's daughters as Saint Savior. He said of Donnelly, "I am so pleased to be here and celebrate this moment in the journey of an exceptional, talented, and well-respected jurist, Judge Ann Donnelly," the newspaper reported. On Twitter, a few hours later, On Twitter, a few hours before Donnelly's order, Schumer urged the reversal of Trump's executive orders. Schumer had attempted to get Donnelly confirmed on unanimous consent, according to Law360.com. Okay, so the lawsuit that Donnelly heard was filed on behalf of 2 Iraqi men whom were detained under the executive order, although one was released before her ruling. Hamid Khalid Darwish, an Iraqi man who put his life on the line as an interpreter for the U.S. military, praised America as the land of freedom after being released from airport detention. Donald Trump's executive order on immigration and visas and had resulted in detainment of Americans. So it kind of goes over that again. So basically, she was appointed. Then it goes on to talk about more of that really has nothing to do with her. So she was appointed, basically, I guess, so I'm thinking she must be a Democrat. And so they appointed her to the bench so that they could have somebody there who probably shared their views on certain things. And I think it's also interesting. So Schumer is a family friend of hers. He talked Obama into appointing her, and so now she's on the bench, so they basically control her and control whatever she does. And so I guess maybe people need to start writing to Barack Obama and telling Barack Obama to tell her to let R. Kelly go. Okay, since Michelle called in to help Justice Smollett get out of his charges. So they really are out here doing favors for their friends. And so that's a little bit about her and how she became appointed and her connection to Barack Obama. And so moving on to the daughter, I had another article here, and I was going to set this up to why I don't think that the person that they're saying is her daughter is not. Okay. So this was from when she was sworn in as a federal judge. And they talk about her 2 daughters. And so Ann Donnelly is 61 years old. And the person that these posts are saying that people on social media believe is her daughter, I wasn't able, I thought it was really interesting about her. Her name is Rebecca Toth, which is the daughter's name. But this lady is actually married. And she has a funny last name. I'll bring it up in a second when I get back. Oh, let me go back up there. Tell you what her name is. So her name is Rebecca Toth Diefenbach. And she kind of like went off the radar after 2018, but after I talk about the real daughter for a second here, I'll go back and talk and tell you more about this lady. So get back to where I was at. Okay, so it says Judge Ann Donnelly was officially sworn in as the 61st judge of the Eastern District of New York during an investor ceremony at the Roosevelt Courthouse in downtown Brooklyn on Friday night. Donnelly is a graduate, and then they talk about her history. She spent 25 years working for the New York County District Attorney's Office before she became a judge in the New York Court of Claims. And I've already read her history to you guys. Donnelly was nominated to be a federal judge by President Barack Obama on the recommendation of Senator Charles Schumer. On Friday, she had the oath of office administered to her by Chief Judge Carol Bagley Amon, and Judge Pamela K. Chen bestowed the ceremonial gavel to her as the newest judge in the court. And it says, they talk about her family. It says Donnelly had many members of her family in attendance for the ceremony, including her mother, Mary Donnelly, husband, Michael Toth, daughters, Rebecca and Margaret, and her future son-in-law, Dan Jones. She also had a long list of dignitaries on hand, including former Manhattan District Attorney Robert Morgenthau, Honorable Rena Uveril, Honorable Judge Michael Obus, and Senator Schumer, each who spoke on her behalf. So she's 61 years old. The person that people think is her daughter is like 46 years old, if the information that I got is correct. So that would mean that she had her when she was 16 years old. And we know this lady ain't had no baby when she was 16. And also the fact that the other woman is a well-respected producer. Okay, so, and she uses her married name. And I would think that that is something that's important to her. And in this article, she only refers to her daughter as Rebecca Toth. She doesn't refer to her by the married name. And then the fact that she talks about the future son-in-law who the daughter Margaret was getting ready to marry, I think she would have mentioned if the other daughter was already married, that she would have mentioned her husband or her fiance in this article. So going over to the lady that everybody thinks is her daughter. So Rebecca Toth Diefenbach started a company called Sirens Media. And so it says Rebecca Toth Diefenbach is co-president, and this is an article that's from a few years ago, is co-president of Sirens Media, a full-service television production company, which she founded in 2005 with producing partner Valerie Hasselton. Creating innovative, bold, and compelling content, Sirens Media has produced hundreds of hours of major cable networks, including Bravo's hit series, The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Manzo with Children, and Thicker Than Water. Among other varied content, current projects with Cooking Channel, Freeform, Pivot, Logo, A&E, and many others. Sirens Media is also known for their crime and investigation programming, including Discovery Channel's first hit crime series, Killing Fields, and 7 series for Discovery ID, including Deadly Demands, Nightmare, Next Door, and Evil Twins. Okay, so Surviving R. Kelly, the first one, was actually produced by a production company. So Sirens Media is a production company. And what production companies do is they create these show ideas and then they sell those ideas to networks. So she created The Real Housewives of New Jersey and she sold that to Bravo. So Bynum and Murray, is that their name? They are the production company that created Surviving R. Kelly, and they sold that to Lifetime. This lady, from what I can find, and I found several articles on her, I found the interview that she did on YouTube, and nothing about Surviving R. Kelly is connected to this woman. That's number one. And then back to the fact that I don't believe that this woman is Ann Donnelly's daughter, because one, she would be too old to be Ann Donnelly's daughter. And I'm thinking that Ann Donnelly's daughters are probably relatively younger, they're probably in their early 30s at best, because she seems to be an overachiever. And so I would picture that she went through college, probably didn't get married until she became a lawyer or later. She probably worked really hard to get her career established, and then she probably started having children. So I picture her to not have had her children till she was in her early 30s. And so that would match up with her being 61 and having daughters that are like 30 or 31. And like I said, I did find one website on this Rebecca Toth Diefenbach, which indicated that she's actually 46 years old. And when you think about it, she started this company in 2005. So that was 15 years ago, which would have made her around 30 years old. But she was an executive. She was an assistant producer prior to starting this company, which would have put her in her 20s. And I'm thinking before that, she may have went to college. She probably worked in really low ranking positions in order to, build herself up and climb the ladder of success to get to the part where she could start this company. And then in like 2018, she stepped down as her and this other lady stepped down as president of this company and became creative producers. And then the company merged with another company. And so that company is bigger. And it seems like once that merger took place, she just disappeared off the scene. Like, I have not been able to find any information on this lady past 2018. So I don't know if she's alive, if she retired from the industry. Like, she's connected on to the earlier series of the earlier seasons of Real Housewives of New Jersey, but I don't see anything like for the last 2 or 3 years for her. So not sure what happened to this lady, if she's still around, if she's still working. She had a lot of articles pre-2018, but since 2018, there's no news articles, no interviews, no nothing on her. So I'm not sure what's going on. And then the other reason I don't think that it is her is because I took a picture of her. I did find another Rebecca Toth, who is in a whole nother field. I'm not going to say what field she is. And even in this picture that I'm about to show y'all, I'm going to like block out her face. But if you look at Ann Donnelly's nose and you look at this mystery person's nose, she is more likely Ann Donnelly's daughter. And this person would be around the age that I think that Ann Donnelly's daughters are. And I just think this is important because I believe that, even in the fight to help, we still have to put out accurate information. And people were also saying, why won't Steve Greenberg file a motion to have the judge dismissed because her daughter was connected to Lifetime? Well, even if the other lady, the Rebecca Toth Diefenbach, was her daughter, she had no connection to the surviving R. Kelly. And I don't think any of her shows that her company produced were even sold to Lifetime. And so I think that would be a far stretch, even if this was her, due to the fact that there's no indication that she has sold any shows to Lifetime or that she was even affiliated with the Lifetime Project. That was a totally different production company that produced Lifetime. And even on the second one, her company had nothing to do, was none of the production companies that put together the Surviving R. Kelly Part 2. But all in all, I don't think that this lady is Ann Donnelly's daughter. I believe her daughter is the other lady that I came across. So that's it. Okay, guys, let me know if you want me to cover all these motions that's been going on. If not, that's fine, because it's sort of like backtracking. But you know, we'll wait and see what happens on April 30th. What's going on with this new judge? If you know, if Ann Donnelly is leaving this case or if she's just out temporarily. Go ahead, leave your comments below, rate the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.